One down and one to go. We already have our first finalist. It is Kyoto Esports' So-Yun, and joining him will be either Muzzy or Insom. My name's Cora, and I'm going to be bringing you this series alongside my good friend Falcone. This one is going to be a good one, right? Because Muzzy has been one of the big stories of this entire tournament. Zalea unfortunately got knocked out in the round of 16, but Muzzy has made it all the way to the round of 4. If he goes to the finals, he could further extend his HCT point lead over Zalea, giving him the better chance of making the direct berth into the World Championships. But then we've got Insom, and he's kind of a question mark, right? He's got this really second-degree lineup that is so strategically different from everything else that we've seen, aside from Tars, who he beat in the round of 8. And he's not banning Druid, he is targeting it. This is going to be an interesting one, Falcone.
I always enjoyed watching Tars targeting Druid, so nothing changes here for Insom. I claimed before it was going to be a Hot Meowth versus Muzzy final. I've already been proven wrong there. So while I want to stand here and say, you know, Muzzy's the big player, Muzzy's the one that comes out on top, that's not always the case. And I would be very entertained if Insom's strategy of targeting Druid pays off.
I would like to see the final be, if possible, you know, 1 amateur versus 1 pro. I think that would be really interesting. But if we did get a final of 2 unknown players after the stacked top 16 that we had, I think that would be saying quite a bit here. These guys certainly earned their spots at this point in the tournament, and we've seen some really good play from Insom. We've only seen him on stream once. So-Yun faltered a little bit in his round of 8 earlier today, but did just prove himself in that round of 4 against Hot Meowth. So this is going to be a good one. Again, we've seen Muzzy's strategy. It is a pretty straightforward strategy. He's got that Highlander Priest with Prophet Velen and even a copy of Mind Blast. So that's about as crazy as it gets for him, whereas Insom has a full aggressive lineup alongside Jade Druid. And his Jade Druid is teched to beat other Jade Druids because he's leaving Druid up. So he doesn't have Priest either, I don't believe. He has Paladin, Warrior, Mage, which is the secret mage, and then his own Jade Druid.
You're right, and that is a weird matchup. Just looking, I feel the need to look through the deck lists to double check that.
They're cool.
Because seeing a lineup with no priest is just bizarre in this tournament.
I know, and you know, not long ago I would have not described secret mage as cool or different, but as far as it goes for this tournament, it is very unique. So let's go ahead and check out the picks and bans for these two guys. All right.
As you suggested, Muzzy's Druid has been left up alongside his Priest and Shaman, Insom with the Mage, Warrior, and Paladin. Muzzy doing the regular thing, banning the Druid. Of course, he has been this whole tournament so far. Why stop now?
Yeah, it's been working for him, certainly, but Insom's strategy also has been working for him. But just take a look at these two guys' demeanors, right? Muzzy is pretty stationary, pretty calm. Insom, he did continue that rocking in the last one. Whenever he wasn't making a move, he looked very, I don't know, stoic, but also at some points you could kind of see some nerves showing through. I haven't seen him in a tournament previously to this, so I'm wondering if he's had a lot of stage experience, but it did not seem like that mattered in his last series. I think there may have been one situation where he could have gone for a face plan in the Secret Mage versus Priest game, but it was nothing detrimental like we've seen some other really nervous flubs earlier this weekend.
We have seen some interesting plays over the course of the tournament so far, but now we're in the semi-final number 2. I expect to see nothing but some top-level Hearthstone now.
I mean, we can always expect to see it from Muzzy, right? We know Muzzy. We've seen Muzzy play time and time again. He's an incredible player, one of the absolute best, not just in North America, but in the world. And he should be, because he is currently in the lead to make the direct qualification from the last call finish into the World Championships. So we would expect a lot from our representative, and he has shown us absolutely nothing less throughout the course of this tournament. But again, Insom, a bit of a question mark. We still don't know too much about him other than that one match that we did see him versus Tars. And we have not seen his lineup function against the lineup that he is assuming most people will bring that he is intending to counter. Tars was sort of the other outlier in the tournament who had a lineup unlike others. He was targeting Druid, but he did have his own Priest. It was, however, a big Priest. Let's see if Insom can make some magic happen against Muzzy's lineup, or will it be the traditional lineup that comes out on top? Immediately, right off the bat, Insom gets the matchup that he wants. Secret Mage against Jade Druid is what he brought this mage for, but it was still very, very close in the last series to him just simply losing.
It's the matchup that he wants, but he's still against a Jade Druid. Jade Druid, we may have forgotten over the course of this tournament because we've barely seen it, and when we have seen it, it's often lost. But Jade Druid is still the strongest deck in Hearthstone at the moment. Muzzy could win this game, in which case, he'd just seize the day and win the whole series with Jade Druid. I see that as a very distinct possibility.
Yeah, we actually had this exact same mirrored matchup between Insom and Tars in game number 1. It was close, but Insom did manage to pull it off. So he would like to repeat those results. He's had a bit of a weaker start. Ideally, you go Mana Worm into Arcanologist and then into some secret synergy on turn 3 would be ideal. And then if you roll into the early Cabal Crystal Runners, that's when your board is so much more powerful than your opponent's, and the burn package takes over after that. But Muzzy has a phenomenal start.
Yeah, Wild Growth, Jade Blossom looks about as good as you can get as a Jade Druid. Curve that into an Aya at some point. Later on, there's going to be armor gain in the form of Malfurion the Pestilent. Insom, this deck is favored, but it is going to be hard for him to keep up with this much ramp.
It is a tentative favor. It's very tentative. Maybe 60-40 at best. Even still, Druid with this much ramp in the early game and the Secret Mage with this little early minion development, this can easily go Druid favored.
Yeah, it is worth noting, though, that talking about armor gain, whereas previously Druids had the Feral Rage, they had the Earthen Scales, etc., etc., Muzzy's list doesn't run Earthen Scales. It doesn't run Feral Rage. It is just reliant on Malfurion the Pestilent. That's a card that Muzzy is going to want to get down sooner rather than later.
And you know what? This is a very standard build. Muzzy does have a Gluttonous Ooze and a Spellbreaker, so those are going to be his tech choices. Whereas in Insom's list, he actually has Big Game Hunter, Black Knight, as well as, I believe, a Mind Control tech. So he's teching more towards the mirror. Muzzy has teched a little bit more towards aggro. And yes, your armor is limited mainly to Malfurion the Pestilent, but Ultimate Infestation as well. You usually land that before turn 10 if you're druiding the way that Druid does. And that 5 armor can be very important. That's a fireball negated.
Turn 8.75, I believe, is the average turn
like
that Ultimate Infestation comes down.
Sure is a 10.
Wild Growth. It comes down before turn 10 on average by a long way. But Aya on turn 6 tends to be pretty good. Jade Blossom can accelerate Muzzy into 8 mana next turn.
So this is the thing, right? Life totals are comparable right now. Muzzy has board lead. Insom has more cards, but the Druid has so many ways to gain resources, to nourish, to Ultimate Infestation, that's almost not a factor right now. Insom's going to need to get some really nice burn off of these glyphs, or he's going to have a hard time getting the reach that he needs.
The weird thing about Jade Druid nowadays is that, much like in the past, where Miracle Rogues lost to themselves by not drawing Gadgets and Auctioneer, it is possible, though unlikely, that the Jade Druid just doesn't draw Nourish and doesn't draw Ultimate Infestation. You can get to the point where they've ramped up to 10, they've played all the cards, and they're just spending every turn waiting for Ultimate Infestation to come. Unlike Miracle Rogue, though, when that one card does come, the game reaches its end pretty fast because it's so strong.
You can win the game with just Ultimate Infestation in hand, whereas Miracle Rogue needs Gadgets in and activators.
Exactly.
That's the big difference.
So while the Miracle Rogue has to save the rest of the resources to use with the Gadgets and Auctioneer, Druid can use everything else they've got and then just come back with Ultimate Infestation. But there's a counterspell in Insom's hand.
There is, but there's an Innervate in Muzzy's hand. So that is going to...
Not anymore, there's not.
No, he's going to ramp up this turn instead. He was testing for Counterspell right now.
Right.
Not knowing that this was Mirror Entity. Obviously, lists are open, so Muzzy knows there's both Counterspell and Mirror Entity. Wanted to make way for the Jade Blossom, tested for Counterspell now, but gets the unfortunate news that it is Mirror Entity, in fact.
And that's the beautiful thing about these secrets, is that every time Insom puts one down, Muzzy needs to play around all of them. It is possible to counterspell Ultimate Infestation, and that can be a game-winning play.
It is, but Muzzy right now, he is hurting for pressure. Unless he picks up some of his top end, in this case, Malfurion the Pestilent, Primordial Drake, Ultimate Infestation. And Jade Behemoths then would be the other large minions in question that he's looking for. Well, he's got no development right now. Nourish as well would be phenomenal.
Of course, Nourish, Ultimate Infestation, even Wrath draws a card. Even Malfurion the Pestilent starts picking up more and more value, but there is going to be this maybe awkward 3 or 4 turns before one of those big card draw cards do happen, where Insom can start to get a big advantage. He needs to get something to stick on the board to Bone Mare up. In fact, Mana Worm looks like a pretty good target for that.
Yeah, his discovers off of that glyph were not very good. Simulacrum, I guess the lesser of the evils, but going to be difficult to make any significant pressure out of these Mana Worms still, even though you have 2 instead of 1. And Muzzy with swipe off the top means he doesn't get to develop this turn, but this board could be enough. Insom has the removal if he wants to kill it, but can he afford to use the burn spells to deal with the board? With 2 Mana Worms in hand, it's possible. It's possible that he could go for a board plan, seeing Muzzy hero power pass on turn 9.
The longer this game goes on, the longer it just feels to Insom that the game ends when Muzzy draws Ultimate Infestation. That being said, Muzzy's not drawing Ultimate Infestation yet. I think Insom has to use the spells to deal with the board. He is just going to die soon if he doesn't.
I think if you're Insom, you need to just assume that Muzzy has it. And then when he doesn't have it, celebrate. But always, always, always think that they have it.
Yeah. So Counterspell needs to come down this turn then. Because if you drop the Counterspell this turn, then if Muzzy has it, he can't play it. And if he does play it, then he just probably loses the game. Obviously, you can't play around Innovate Ultimate Infestation, but we've just seen an Innovate. Okay.
So he does pick it up off the top, but he cannot play it this turn. Muzzy can actually force a clear by playing Doomsayer, proccing the Mirror Entity, and then it will trigger on Insom's turn, getting rid of the Mana Worms.
Yep.
But it does look like Spreading Plague is going to have to be the bait for the counterspell. That's fine. You're not going to see great value off of it this game. And Ultimate Infestation is worlds more important.
Ultimate Infestation, turn 10, right on cue.
I mean, it's Druid. What'd you expect?
Pops up in the hand.
Yep. Right on time. You rang?
Not even Yogg-Saron used to do that. You could only run 1 Yogg-Saron in your deck. But yeah, Doomsayer, as you said, going to do its thing, going to blow up the entire board immediately. Aya dies, meaning that Muzzy gets a 4/4 Jade Golem. Those Mana Worms would have been a lot of damage if they'd survived, thanks to the Fireball double Frostbolt. It may have even been lethal. I didn't count it up.
They were both 3 attack. Could have been, yeah, Fireball double Frostbolt, which adds 3 more to each. So you got 6/12. Yeah, more than enough.
Yeah.
Now Insom can Firelands down, the Golem building up his own board at the same time, but you're sitting at 9.
So you have to play the Sorcerer's Apprentice and then play the expensive Firelands Portal. That's the most efficient way of doing it. Hope to get something big from the Firelands Portal. If you don't, then Ultimate Infestation only that leaves the Sorcerer's Apprentice alive.
UI swipe over 2 turns is just lethal damage.
It is.
There must be a way.
And when Ultimate Infestation goes off, then Muzzy will probably have more choices than just the swipe.
You can play the cheap Firelands and fire off 2 Frostbolts this turn if you want, getting the most out of your discounts.
Oh, that's not what Insom needs right now.
That's rough. Yeah, maybe you just really want value out of your discounts. No, he's going to disagree. He's going to weave in the hero power. Still giving himself a little bit of clear option if it comes to it, but we got 15 on 1 turn right now. 16 with a hero power.
It's close. It's just not close enough. Ultimate Infestation makes life difficult in many, many ways.
Muzzy's going to get 5 armor off of this, which puts him even further out of range. Innovate the hero power, go for 1 more armor. He's now sitting.
You feel pretty safe at 26
Yeah, sitting
health,
pretty
right?
at 26. There's 5 on board. You would need to somehow have 21 in hand, and we are not living in the Ice Lance era.
That 8 armor is is all that stands between Insom and victory, though. I believe there's 18 damage. Yeah.
There must be a way.
Sorcerer's Apprentice has done a lot of work this game. It's just not been enough. Counterspell could stop one of the swipes from winning the game for Muzzy, but he has 2 of them, plus another spell to bait it out with. There is nothing Insom can do to come back.
Okay, yeah, so Firelance Fireball is 11, then you've got 3 more for Frostbolt, so 14 max from hand. If you were on 10 mana, so you're not, which means you only have 11. Fireball double Frostbolt, 12. Wow, this is just... Muzzy giving that look to the camera. Very close, but Insom is not going to be able to get it done. Even with the counter spell up, we have 2 swipes in hand. You could blunder with the first swipe and still end the game right here. Muzzy is going to take game number 1, and Insom with the deck he wanted to queue against the Druid. This or Paladin would have been really good leads and would have been favorable for him. Still not good enough.
Like I said just a moment ago, Druid is the best deck in... Jade Druid is the best deck in Hearthstone at the moment. Even the matchups that it's slightly weak against, it can take down sometimes quite easily. And Insom is going to have to fight really hard, not just to get back and win the series, but just to beat Muzzy's Jade Druid.
All right, so Insom's Druid was banned. His Mage is now out of the question. He's left with Paladin Warriors. The question is, do you want Pirate Warrior or do you want a very aggressive build of Murloc Paladin? I would almost be more inclined to go with Murloc Paladin because the board states are wider and therefore more difficult for the Druid to deal with. If the Druid has 1 stabilizing turn against the Pirate Warrior, they can win from then on out. Not enough minion pressure. And Insom agrees. He's going to go with the Paladin deck, and what a curve he's got.
I agree as well. The Murloc Tidecaller into Rockpool Hunter into Murloc Wally to start is actually very tricky for the Jade Druid to keep up with. I would say this is one of the best decks against Jade Druid.
Yeah, under normal circumstances, yes.
Right.
And these are not even normal circumstances. This is 2 Grimscale Chums in the build. You've got 2 Bone Mares at the top end. This is really, really good. Gonna get this fixed for you guys as soon as possible. There we go. Apologies for that.
Getaway Kodo is the value option. Being able to just pop a Stonehill Defender or Gentle Megasaur or Murloc Wooly to back in the hand. Any of those cards, it's fine.
I think you're quite happy with all of them. Well, you can set up for the largest Megasaur on 4, or you can take your time. I like that. He's got coin in hand. He's got resources that he would like to buff that he wouldn't be able to play before turn 4. You've got a little wiggle room here to wait it out.
This isn't the most straightforward pick either. I'm pretty sure it's not Faceless Shambler, but Righteous Protector has its advantages. Its synergy with Spike Witch Steed is definitely worth mentioning. Oh, I stand corrected.
I will say, as an avid arena player, Righteous Protector is an incredibly underrated card. It gives you so much power when you're trading minions, and that is valuable in this matchup.
I mean, I don't even think it's that underrated. I recall just before the expansion launched, a lot of players putting it in the top 5 list of what they think the strongest card in the expansion is, and with good reason. Muzzy ramping himself up to 7. He's going to be at 8 mana next turn. So Malfurion the Pestilent is going to be able to come down nice and early. That's such a good defensive card. Fandral in hand as well. That works with the hero power. Or Muzzy could opt to go with Jade Behemoth instead and start getting these Jades down. There's a lot he can do next turn. Insom needs to work out how he's going to be as aggressive as he possibly can and put a stop to Muzzy's plans.
Oh, I just had a little moment where I looked at Insom and I'm like, okay, he's on 4. That's good. And then I looked up at Muzzy and I'm like, oh, he's on 8. Yeah, Nourish on 5 will do that. So Insom needs to go as wide and as strong as he possibly can, and that would be Vilefin War Leader, but now you're so fragile to swipe Wrath, and this War Leader is really valuable. can put down Vilefin and the Getaway Kodo as well. All right, he's just going to go with the Getaway Kodo. Save that coin. You can coin Spike Ridge next turn, so that is probably the reasoning behind that. And then Faceless Shambler onto the Spike Ridge minion would explain why you take that.
Yes. Yes, it would. You want the... it means that Insom's going to want to aim for the biggest stats possible, obviously, so that he gets 2 copies of whatever appears.
Yeah, 4 mana, 3/7, pretty good.
Poisonous spiders are annoying. I wonder if Insom ever goes for Divine Shield here off the Gentle Megasoul. Like, you drop the Murloc and then play that. You can then kill both spiders. Poisonous does not work through Divine Shields.
That is so stinking risky, Falcone.
It is risky.
You have about a 30% chance to hit
but then even
the
if
option you want.
Even if you don't get it, you can go for Wind Fury, deal a ton of damage this turn. You can go for attack, do the same.
Okay, well, let's look at other options, right? There aren't any that are very good. So maybe you just need to get a little bit lucky. Muzzy's going into 10 mana very soon. You're still on 5.
You can go for stealth. You can go for untargetable. All of those aren't that bad.
Yeah.
Stealth.
So if you take can't be targeted, then the spiders still kill them. Divine Shield is the best option here.
Move quickly.
By far. Oh, he gets it. That's big. What?
What? What?
What?
I'm trying to make sense of this really hard.
Okay, there's no sense to be made. Okay, nope, that was just bad.
Is there any way?
No, it should have been Hydrologist War Leader into the spiders. You would still have a taunt on board. No, that was just a strict misplay. Now Insom has put himself in the position to lose this War Leader.
I'm still racking my brain just in case. Like, there's nothing with the Getaway Kodo. No way that he was trying to force
that was my initial thought. I'm like, what is he trying to force from the Kodo? But no, it was a blunder.
That was horrible.
It was bad. And that's what I was saying beforehand. I hate to go back to the cliche of pressure under the big lights and on the big stage, but it's a reality. We've seen it so much. Normally good players who've had good results outside of the stage, and then they come up and they do silly things.
So, Spike Ridge Steed is now an option for Insom. He can create a very big 3/9 Murloc, prime for copying with Faceless Shambler later, or he can go very wide one more time, but going wide isn't quite as effective as it was when Murloc War Leader was still alive.
No, and Muzzy has a Primordial Drake in the deck, so you're always worried about that. You did just see one swipe, though, so I would be inclined to go wide. And then, maybe you land Tarim next turn, and that builds a winning board. I think you are in the position to take some risks right now. You've got more resources than Muzzy, but Insom is still not in a comfortable position.
Must move quickly.
Okay, so Insom is trying to set up for himself a decent Sunkeeper Tarim. Tarim is particularly good against Jade Druid, always has been, always will be. The ability to just turn these huge Jades into tiny 3/3 minions is great. Spreading Plague, though, is a pretty major punish for Insom going wide here.
Yeah, that's definitely the one card you didn't want to see, but Muzzy isn't going to pull the trigger just yet.
This is
going to play
you never
UI.
Want to see.
I think Spreading Plague here would have been also quite bad for Insom, having just gone wide. But yes, UI on 10 seems to happen quite a lot. And now that Muzzy's picked up the Doomsayer, he can put that behind a Spreading Plague. That's a great reason to keep it.
What is coming out here with this Ultimate Infestation? Doomsayer could come down now. It would mean it's not playable with the Spreading Plague. It would be a little bit awkward. Double Jade Golem is reasonable as well. I don't think there's any need to shuffle this one. You just play it for tempo. You never go into fatigue against a Paladin deck, so just contest what Insom's got on the board. I like it.
What can Insom possibly do? It's looking like he's about to lose 2 favored, and I say favored with air quotes, matchups.
Is anything favored against Druid these days?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
I have to admit, I'm a tiny bit concerned that Insom's going to lean back just a little bit too far. I'm actually a little bit on edge watching this.
No, you know what? I think he's tested the chair just like I think he has tested these matchups, but there is a failure rate.
So I'm still concerned that he's going to fall off the back of the chair then.
As there's a failure rate against Drew, there's a failure rate with the chair. But not with these Maxnomic chairs. They're very nice.
Move quickly.
It's quite early to be playing Sunkeeper Tarim as well. Like, reducing the attack and health of huge Jade Golems is a very effective way of using the card. However, this is a lot of damage that Insom has managed to push in. He's running out of value in his hand. He needs to try and finish off Muzzy sooner rather than later before these Jades get too big.
I really like that he pushed here. I really like that he pushed damage here. A lot of players would feel very defensive. They would feel the need to trade, but he's not going to win if that happens. Yes, the redemption does proc on the Noble Sacrifice. You get a 2-1, but it's not what you wanted. Especially since Swipe can come down and clear off the Noble Sacrifice, a 3/3 Murloc, and then the Tarim as well. Or now would be a good time to go for Spreading Plague. Pick your poison.
This seems as good a time as any to play Spreading Plague to me. There's no way that this board is getting over the taunts. You can drop Doomsayer nicely behind these Scarabs, and it's guaranteed board clear.
The Shambler in hand would have to be another Tarim, and even then it would be a 1-for-1 trade on the entire board. Or you'd need to have Consecration, which he doesn't have in the deck.
I don't even think a second Gentle Megasaur or Murloc Woolleader would do it.
No, even plus attack wouldn't be enough to get the Doomsayer off the board. So this is just going to be full wipe, I believe. No way for 3 to equal 5 here.
Insom losing everything right before his eyes. He's actually going to play Spyrich Steed here just to leave the 2/6 on the board. But
oh, that feels so bad.
It really does feel bad. It's very little to contest all of these Jade Golems that are just growing bigger and bigger.
He needs something to play the Bone Mare on that he can get immediate value from. You can King Shambler now. That's pretty good too. It would definitely be stronger onto the board. But you're leaving an uncontested Fandral, and we can see that Muzzy has a copy of Spellbreaker in hand.
Yes, Blessing of Kings plus Shambler is still very strong though.
Yeah, but then Spellbreaker turns Shambler back into a 1/1.
But the Staggeron is still a 6/10. That's something.
It is. It's like we've played
1/6.
2 9-mana cards here.
Okay.
It'll soon go back to 1.
Your magic
Giant Mastodons for days. Do you see Insom taking notes though? That's a good habit to have. With only 1 card in hand, I don't see him finding his way out of this one.
I don't think there are many notes left to take this game.
Other than game over.
Finja into Bone Mare is about as good as a final few turns he can get, I think. He's not dead immediately. He can buff up the Finja, give it Taunt, summon some Murlocs. He's got one final kind of second wind. It's just not a great one. It's not good enough.
Well, looks like we may be seeing our very first Jade Druid sweep, Falcone.
We're getting there.
It's possible. Insom's going to have the Pirate Warrior left.
We're 2/3 of the way there. And what at least we see one. It would be wrong to not see a Jade Druid sweep in this meta at a DreamHack right now. It would be insincere to the game.
All right, so Insom's gonna go with his last possible board building, but it will not be enough. 2 rock pools come out and they can nowhere near challenge the board that Muzzy has. He's got another Spreading Plague, even if his board somehow manages to get killed and Insom has a board behind it. He knows it's not enough. Muzzy goes up to a 2-0 lead. 1 more game, and Muzzy's going to the finals. Insom now needs to win 3 in a row with Pirate Warrior, but it's been done.
It has. Pirate Warrior can beat Jade Druid. It's certainly not the matchup that it used to be, where Pirate Warrior would usually beat Jade Druid. Spreading Plague is one of the one of the reasons that Pirate Warrior struggles so much nowadays. But it can happen. Pirate Warrior is the second deck that we've seen sweep the most, I think, this weekend. Priest is the most common sweep that we've seen.
Yeah.
But we have seen a lot of Pirate Warrior sweeps.
One Shaman as well.
Yep.
Came from Muzzy, and that just goes to show how much power he has still remaining in his lineup, even when the Druid is gone. Insom banned the Paladin. So Muzzy's still with Silence Priest, or Highlander Priest, excuse me, and Shaman, even if
Silence Priest.
This Druid loses. Highlander Priest.
Blast to the past there.
Yeah, maybe I just subconsciously really want to see one. But no dice. Insom's last stand, and Muzzy's got a great hand to be able to fight against this warrior, but Bittertide Hydra is very difficult for the Jade Druid to deal with.
No one drop from Insom is slightly unhelpful, though it doesn't matter too much. 2 into 2 into 4 into 5 is absolutely fine. I'm almost surprised that we didn't see a 2-drop coined out. Ooh, Fiery War Axe. Now it's actually a pretty tough decision for Insom. Does he drop the Bloodsail Raider now, use patches to trade, and just develop the 2-3 on the board, or does he wait, develop the War Axe, not hit anything, and then summon a 5-3 next turn?
Maybe...
Or even 2 5-3s next turn. War Axe now into double Bloodsail Raider seems pretty strong.
I think that's probably it, yeah. And then you are good to go for turn 4 because you've got Korkron, and turn 5 is Hydra or Arcanite Reaper. This line looks a lot better than just playing a 2-3 this turn to get rid of a 1-1. And why are you worried about a 1-1 anyway, right? You can go double 5-3s and clear off the Jade Spirit. He did go face last turn, perhaps in preparation for Korkron into Arcanite Reaper later on, but...
It's got to be tempting now to play the upgrade.
Maybe, but I'm looking at Arcanite upgrade
of
also.
Course. You'd rather do that.
Yeah, you can go Hydra on 5 into Arcanite upgrade on 6.
Yeah, okay, Coin Raider makes a lot of sense.
The only thing is now having attacked face last turn, you're not going to have Fiery War Axe available to trade with next turn. So that's a little awkward.
Swipe very efficiently deals with this entire board.
Insom taking it all in stride, nods his head, but doesn't look too phased. He's still got a fantastic curve.
It's not what he wants to see, but yeah, he's got Korkron now. Wrath deals with that, but then Bittertide Hydra, as you said right at the start of this game, that is what Druids struggle to deal with. And Insom may just about get it to stick for a few turns.
Well, Muzzy's got... He can Jade Blossom and Wrath this turn, kill off the Korkron, put his own 3-3 Golem on board, but he's out of resources after that. A couple of whiff turns would be really, really detrimental for him if he picked up second Innervate, second Wild Growth. It's really hard to do that, though, as Druid. It's hard to miss those important turns because you have so much stability and so much consistency within the deck. So much card draw. You can just Reaper this turn, protect the Korkron. Or you can drop Hydra and go face.
The earlier you play the Hydra, the less likely the Druid is to be able to deal with it. One swipe has already been used. I think it's now or never, really. And as great as Arcanite Reaper is, that's still going to be around next turn.
And Muzzy did elect to hold the Wrath in hand, I think as a nod to the fact that his hand right now is abysmal going forward, and he needs maybe to use this Wrath for cycle.
The bad news for Insom, and Muzzy is aware of this, deck lists are open, there is a Gluttonous Ooze in this Jade Druid.
Nothing matters now, because Muzzy can Innervate Ultimate Infestation on 9, and that should be enough to help him stabilize. I say should, but we've got Reaper upgrade in hand for Insom.
18 damage.
It still could just be enough. Yeah, because Hydra's going face here. You're going face for another 6. That's 14. Muzzy will get a kill on the Hydra if Insom doesn't kill the Spellbreaker. But that's still just 2 additional turns that Insom needs.
He might just finally get over the finish line and finish off that Jade Druid.
I mean, we say this, but then Muzzy's got Gluttonous Ooze, 2 copies of Spreading Plague, and 2 copies of Jade Behemoth, Malfurion the Pestilent, Primordial Drake, another Ultimate Infestation. There's so many anti-aggro cards that slot into this deck perfectly. It's like you didn't even intend to target aggro because it's supposed to be your bad matchups, but somehow you're still doing it.
Yeah, it's a big if, it's a big maybe, it's a big might. There's so much damage. Arcanite upgrade usually is the combination of cards that you need to finally finish off an opponent that's still got a lot of health in the mid game. But it's just this is just the strength of Ultimate Infestation. If that Ultimate Infestation was any other card, even a Nourish, it wouldn't be quite as horrible for Insom.
No, it's the fact that Muzzy can build his hand, kill Insom's minions, and heal himself, essentially with the 5 armor all in the same turn. It makes this card absolutely incredible. Insom elects to go with a board building strategy instead, wants to get this frothing down in case the Hydra dies. He has something else that can get repetitive damage in. Reaper upgrade can come down whenever. I suppose getting 1 damage from Rusty Hook in now is making the most of it. See what Muzzy gets. Pestilent is phenomenal. Second UI, you'll burn a lot, but if you need 5 armor, you've got it. He's looking for Spreading Plague now.
As you said, Malfurion the Pestilent is incredible. It's as good as Spreading Plague in most cases, right? You still summon 2 of the 1/5 taunts.
Yeah, and you get the 5 armor. It's only 7 mana, so you can armor for 3 behind it.
Yeah.
But yes, Spreading Plague and Gluttonous Ooze now would be the 2 main cards for Muzzy to find.
I wonder if, so Insom now has 2 upgrades, so the problem is, he is going to fully expect there to be a Gluttonous Ooze in Muzzy's hand. He's had no way of testing for it yet, really. Plus, all of those cards have only just appeared there. Insom's best play, as we can see it, is to go all in, play Arcanite Reaper, play both upgrades, and start smacking the face for 7.
Yeah. He's got 14 this turn if he goes all in.
But going all in is probably misguided because of the high chance of Gluttonous Ooze. So
that's why he's putting so much stock into this frothing.
Yeah. Because
he's seen a swipe already. He's seen a Wrath already. If this Reaper gets oozed, you need to have something to get that damage, and that's where the frothing comes in.
Yeah. I'm pretty certain that Insom made the correct play there based on the knowledge that he has. Unfortunately, it's not going to win him the game. Now, Malfurion the Pestilent plus Doomsayer is a good option here. It's almost a guaranteed board clear. Again, you gain the 5 armor, and then all future turns you can gain 3.
You could also just Malfurion this turn, Jade Blossom, and then assuming Arcanite Reaper goes into one of the taunts, frothing into the other, Wrath cleans up the frothing next turn. I don't know. Insom may have just had to go for it. If you get to this point, you know it's so much more likely that Muzzy has other counters in his hand than the single copy of Gluttonous Ooze. Maybe you just need to hope and pray that he doesn't have it right now, and you need to go all in with that weapon.
Ultimate Infestation number 2. I mean, why not? Another way of gaining 5 armor, but unlike the handed 2 full for Spreading Plague, that's ironic. Unlike the Malfurion play, this plays around something like Spellbreaker, allowing the Frothing Berserker to push face. So this makes a lot of sense. Now Insom has to play the upgrade, surely.
He can have 21 damage over 3 turns, 25 with the Heroic Strike.
But as far as he's concerned, there are only now 8 cards in his opponent's deck.
Yeah.
He hasn't seen a Gluttonous Ooze burned.
No, but he also hasn't seen Jade Behemoths come down. He is still not seen Malfurion the Pestilent. He still hasn't seen a single copy of Spreading Plague, as only 1 was burned. There's just too many taunts for him to be able to go through. He has no other choice. He's got to go for it. He's only sitting at 15 health. Muzzy's got 10 with the minion, the swipe, and a hero power.
Malfurion the Pestilent, 2 taunts, 5 armor, coming down right now. Yeah, 23 health with 2 taunts, and Insom only has 2 cards left in his hand, a weapon that's not doing all that much at all. I think, Cora, that we have our first Druid sweep of the tournament.
Insom doesn't know it yet, but we do. Muzzy has the damage he needs to end this game. No matter what Insom does, it will not be enough. He brought this lineup intending to target Druid, but Muzzy just could not be beaten. And Insom's lineup has actively worked against him in this series. He's going to be taken out in a 3-0 sweep with the very deck he was hoping to defeat. But that means that we have our grand finalists, Falcone. It's going to be Soyeon versus Muzzy.
Muzzy, every win he gets is one step closer to the World Championship. In fact, he's so far ahead of Zalay now, it's going to be very difficult for Zalay to catch up. Just as a little reminder of something that was a big story for this tournament coming in, I think Muzzy is going to go all the way.
It's possible. There's still a couple months of ladder. There's still DreamHack
sorry,
Denver.
I meant in this tournament.
Oh, in this tournament? Oh, it's I think everybody out there would put their money on Muzzy right now to take this final. But very different lineups between Muzzy and Soyeon. So that one isn't over yet, but the race between Muzzy and Zalay certainly is not over yet either. First place in this tournament guarantees themselves 15 HCT points. Second place, I believe, gets 10. So Muzzy, at the very least, has extended his lead ahead of Zalay by 11 HCT points total. And that is a big lead. That gives him a little bit of breathing room. Puts the pressure on Zalay that much more. Granted, America's HCT is this upcoming weekend. If one of them qualifies, then you know, everything's good. Then they can both make it, one based on points and one based on direct qualification. But that was quite a showing by Muzzy. We have not seen him play Jade Druid, but he has proven that he is not lacking in that department either. And we will be giving these guys a little bit of a break. Muzzy's just played his series, of course, but he needs some time to study Soyeon's decks and take a little bit of a break before he goes on for a very important grand final match. So after a bit of an extended break, we will be back with Muzzy versus Soyeon.